Every time that I post a video, I go through the comment section to see if there's any ideas that I can steal from you for future videos. And the most popular comment is, Ethan, can you please give us a full studio tour? So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna go through my entire studio and show you everything that's in it.
So as we first walk in, you may notice, yes, there is carpet in here. We transitioned this from a spare bedroom to like my own little coffee studio. And one of the downsides of living in an apartment is the option of tearing out the carpet and putting in tiles is just not feasible. The main reason why we made the coffee studio was to get all of my coffee stuff out of the kitchen so we could use the kitchen for what it's supposed to be used for, and that's cooking. I wanted a black accent wall in the back, so I got this textured stick and peel wallpaper, so we put that up, and then I got this custom neon sign. We put up some shelving. I made these cabinets and tabletops from IKEA, and it all came together super well. There's still a few inconveniences like having to go to the kitchen to use the sink or having to go to the fridge to get milk, but we're slowly working through those things. Like I just got this ice maker and I'm working on getting a mini fridge, but we can't forget about the major conveniences of having everything already set up in one room, like the lights, the coffee gear, and all of my camera equipment. So let's go through all the equipment, starting with the espresso machine, which is the Latte Bianca V3. I think this machine is gorgeous. I have zero issues with it, and I think for a lot of people, this is an endgame espresso machine. Price-wise, the machine comes in at $3,500, depending on where you buy it. It has these beautiful wood accents, 2 boilers on the inside. It has this little control panel where you can program a bunch of different options, and then it has a cup warmer on the top. This machine is also extremely interesting because it has this flow control paddle which allows you to flow profile. We'll make coffee with that in a second, but for the grinder I use the Timor Sculptor 078S. It has 78mm burrs, it's a stepless adjustment, and it has a variable RPM. This grinder's pretty cool because you can grind for filter coffee and espresso. I like to use mine for espresso. It's a single dosing grinder and it has this little knock box to help reduce retention. The grinder that's next to it is called the DF64 version 2, and I like to use this for filter coffee primarily. This grinder has 64mm burrs, it has a stepless adjustment, and it can also grind for espresso. I just like to have one grinder for filter and one for espresso. The contraption that's sitting next to it is called the X-Bloom, and it's a great machine for when I'm feeling lazy. It's sort of like your traditional capsule machine that has these capsules, but they have whole beans on the inside and an RFID tag on the bottom that has a pre-saved recipe. So you throw the beans into the grinder that's built into the machine, and then the machine grinds the coffee beans to the setting that the capsule told it to. This is a really cool machine, and it's really futuristic-like. It moves the capsule over to the grinder, and then it moves the capsule back from the grinder underneath the water nozzle, and it does it all for you. You don't have to learn how to do anything. Moving over to the right is my pour-over station, and this is when I actually want to make coffee. I'm using the Hario V60 for the most part lately. I have other drippers, but they're in a cabinet. I have some extra water, my Fellow kettle, some bean storage, and my ice makers over here as well. I use the new Fellow kettle because I think it looks really good in the coffee bar. I love the aesthetic of it. For the ice maker, I use the GE Opal 2.0. It's a nugget ice maker, which is obviously the best ice. The only downside with the machine is that it doesn't keep the ice cold, so you either need to leave the machine on all the time, or you can schedule it to make ice at certain times. And over here is Calvin's Corner. This is where I have a portrait of Calvin along with my towel racks. And if you don't know, Calvin is my barista bulldog. He's a huge help and big partner of the channel. I thought it might be kind of interesting to show you guys what it's like to make a latte from start to finish using the entire coffee bar. So the espresso machine is up to temperature and fully heated up, so we'll take the portafilter out and dry it using the towel rack that's conveniently right to the left. The bottomless portafilter that you see here came with the espresso machine. I didn't have to buy it separately, and I haven't even changed it because I like it so much. Now it's time to weigh out the coffee beans and throw them into the grinder, and this will give me a good opportunity to show you some of the smaller tools that I use. The espresso cups that I'm going to use to dose out these coffee beans are from my glassware brand that I own called Fleur. They're technically just espresso glasses, but I like to use them for dosing. Right below the espresso machine is a drawer full of puck prep tools, puck screens, and different types of spoons and straws and that kind of thing. And the drawer below that is where I keep most of my coffee beans unless they're in the freezer. This container is called the Fellow Atmos, and it's going to help preserve the freshness of your beans for even longer. There's tons of options for these types of containers, but I like these ones mainly for the aesthetic. I think there's other better options. The scale that I'm using to weigh out the beans is called the Akaya Lunar. It's quite expensive, but it lasts for a very long time. It's very responsive, as you can see, and it's super high quality. But if you're paying $300 for a scale, chances are they're taxing and you're paying a lot for the brand. There's tons of great scales scales out there that are under $100, so don't feel like you need to go and buy one that's $300. The next product we're gonna use is a very simple spray bottle. This is for a technique called RDT, where you spray a couple spritz of water on your coffee beans to help reduce static electricity when it goes through the grinder. There's nothing fancy with this, just search like martini atomizer or mini spray bottle. I got these in a 4-pack for like 15 bucks. Now we'll throw the beans in the top of the grinder, making sure to get all the beans out of the cup. Make sure to double check this because the water sometimes makes the beans stick to the inside. I already have these beans dialed in, so we're not gonna adjust any settings on the grinder, but if you wanted to, you could adjust the RPM and the grind fineness. I can't express how much I love having a towel rack to the left of me at all times. I wipe everything down. It helps me keep everything more clean, and from a workflow perspective, it's awesome. Back to the grinder. One of my favorite features about this grinder is the unique knocker that's underneath. Once you're done grinding the beans, you just twist this little knocker and it pushes out all the grounds that are sitting in that chute. It's one of the most unique ways that I've seen a company combat the issue of having grounds stuck in your chute. One of the quirks that I noticed with the grinder, if you do RDT, some of the beans do get stuck at the top. It's not a big deal, you just open it up and then push the beans down. Now we can do the most satisfying and fun part in my opinion, and that's called puck prep. For people that don't know, puck prep is just where we evenly distribute the coffee grounds in the bed to reduce channeling. That little cup on the Timor is the perfect size to fit into our portafilter, so we'll flip it upside down, and I like to use this little dosing ring to ensure that none of the grounds get all over the place. The next step in the process is to use a WDT tool, which is just this little tool with these acupuncture needles to break up any clumps that are sitting in our bed. There's tons of different WDT tools out there. There's some that are $150, there's some that are $5, but if you're on a tight budget, I would say don't spend more than $15. You don't need to. Look for a tool that has super thin needles. You don't want one that has needles the size of a toothpick. That's too thick. The next tool we're going to use is called a tamper, and this is going to flatten the grounds into the form of a puck. Again, there's a lot of different options for tampers. I recommend a spring-loaded tamper for beginners, and you should be able to find some of these for like 35 to 40 bucks. Spring-loaded tampers are calibrated to a certain pressure, and they're like foolproof, so I recommend getting one of those. And then the final step is putting on a puck screen, and this is not necessary whatsoever, but I do think that it does a great job in keeping your espresso machine clean. The puck screens that I'm using are the viral happy pucks that I created and that I sell. So I attached my portafilter to the espresso machine, I threw my scale underneath, and then I put my cup on top of my scale. What's great about this espresso machine in particular is I can start the espresso, go fill up my milk, and steam my milk at the same exact time as my espresso's pulling. I must add, without any compromise to the pressure of the espresso or the steam wand pressure. The milk frothing pitcher that I'm using is the Normcore handleless milk frothing pitcher. I like the way that it looks, I like the size of it, and I think I can pour better latte art with it, but that just might be I might be delusional. I don't know. So our espresso's going. I'm gonna go grab my milk, and then we're gonna go back to the machine and we're gonna froth it up. Frothing milk with this espresso machine is super nice too because the steam wand is cool to the touch and you don't have to worry about burning your hands ever. Looks like our espresso's done, so we can set this to the side and start steaming our milk. The machine comes with two different steam wand tips, one that has 2 holes and one that has 4 holes. I personally like to use the one that has 2 holes because I find that it gives me more time to texture the milk. People always ask me, why does this machine take so long to froth the milk? And it really doesn't. I intentionally turn down the temperature and the pressure of the steam wand so I have more time to go in there and texture the milk, resulting in a better texture. So I could turn up the temperature and froth the milk super quick, but I have all the time in the world and I don't mind sacrificing a little bit of time for better texture. Another question that I get asked a lot is, how do I know when to stop frothing the milk? And I think some of that comes down to preference on how hot you like the milk, and some of it just comes down to experience. In my experience, you want to wait till the pitcher is just too hot to touch, and as soon as you hit that point, turn it off, you're done. So I just about hit that point. I turned off the steam wand and I made sure to wipe it down. That's super important. You want to make sure to always wipe down your steam wand so you don't get all that crusty stuff on there. Trust me, it's good to get in the habit of just purging out your steam wand and wiping it down. You don't want to be a gross, crusty, milky person. Now is the moment of truth and the moment that we've all been waiting for to see if this lunatic can actually pour some latte art, and I can't. I'm really bad at this. Let's hope I can. I don't even remember recording this. I'm not an expert with latte art, but you want to set a base before you start trying to pour some art. So you saw that I set a base and then I started wiggling some milk out, and then I just made kind of a little heart. But yeah, that is kind of a full setup tour on the exterior. If you wanted me to go through all of the drawers and show you all the little tools, I'm more than happy to do that. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.